All right, Jim, let's get the show going here.
Yeah.
I'll take it for, I'll be the slide guy. So we're talking about building the healthiest school that we can. And we want to be really aspirational. While we're being realistic, we know that there's a lot of things that we're doing that we're stubbing our toes or we're making mistakes. We're human. We have 750 kids here, and then their parents and teachers. But let's be aspirational about being the healthiest school for children to grow up. And we're going to do that by looking at culture, curriculum, and community. So the first thing is let's, again, just take a moment. The gala was off the charts, and I think that was a sum total of amazingly hard work by a few, but it was a sum total of the thermometer. Where is our community right now? And our community is at a place where we are coming together. We're breaking records in terms of how much money we raise for scholarship and some other areas. So really exciting with the gala. Also, we're feeling really good about our health and wellness. And so Jim McGuire is going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to go back and forth, so be prepared for the duo.
One of the things that, so in the upper school, our Dean of Student Life, Erin Staley, she's amazing. She has this game that she does with the students where she just puts random slides up on the screen during morning meeting and invites people to come up and say, all right, you're going to do the presentation for me. I'm going to put the picture up and you tell everybody what it's about. So a little bit of a play off of that, because these pictures, you're like, okay, how does all this come together? How do I put health and wellness, masks, it's another wellness picture, and admissions and enrollment all together? So I'm going to do my best to try to bring all those together here for you all. But health and wellness has been something that when Rob first came into Collegiate was a big part of why he chose Collegiate. We were very much kind of looking for going to prioritize health and wellness and not just give it lip service, but really put it at the top of the agenda, right? Give it equal ground to all the other initiatives that are really important to our school. During his time, he's talked with his first year here, I think he spent time talking with every board member, every faculty and staff member about his vision for this, and talking to parents and really trying to put that out there. And then we've been working hard to try to think about and examine where we are in all ways when it comes to health and wellness. And health and wellness can mean a lot of different things. COVID happens, right? And then we have definitely a hyper focus on health and wellness and how we're trying to keep our community healthy and safe, while also providing a real academic, social, and emotionally rich experience for students, right? Certainly with COVID and all the things that we've gone through during the pandemic, there have absolutely been health and safety costs, and those are really hard and difficult. There have also been academic, social, and emotional costs as a result. We've been working hard through the pandemic over the last couple of years. We just recently went to a mask optional policy, and one of the things I wanted to just say about that is throughout this whole experience with COVID, and as we've added protocols and policies, as we've adjusted those, modified those, as we shifted to a mask optional, probably the thing that I'm most proud of and how this relates to kind of health and wellness is that we have a great community here that is really non-judgmental about this stuff, right? And that's really critical and important. We have people that have varying opinions about it, and they have perspectives on that, and that's perfectly fine, but the ability for each person to be able to do what they feel like is best for them, and people to respect that and honor that is really critical and important, and will be a part of what we'll talk about here in a minute with culture and climate. Additionally, this is where admissions comes in. So admissions has also been off the charts over the last couple of years. We right now are at 651, I think. We are projecting to
751.
751. We're projecting to be close to 800. Next year, that is, I came to Collegiate about 10 years ago, and we're in a fundamentally different place from an enrollment perspective. I believe, from just watching things and how they've kind of unfolded over the last few years. But I think this message of creating the healthiest school possible for our kids to grow up is really resonating, and it's something that I think people see this. They've always heard about this idea of a whole child education, but I think we're trying to bring some real intention and deliberate work to that. It's sloppy, it's messy, it's not linear. We make mistakes, we try stuff out. Some things flop, some things are really big and successful, and that's great. But the fact that we're trying to put a lot of time and energy into that work right now, I think is a big reason why enrollment is surging. That, and we have the best admissions team out there, and a great school with great faculty, staff, parents, students. I mean, you put all that together, and we're in a really, really strong place from an enrollment perspective. All right.
A quick look at the agenda. It's a pretty full agenda, considering we want to have about half of the time for you to break out and talk about your ideas about how to make the healthiest school possible. So we're going to zoom through it. So we're going to begin by, why are we doing this work? Why is this important? And then give you a little bit of an explanation about the rationale, the research, and why we believe it's going to work. And then review some of the things that we're doing, preview some of the things that we're doing, reminding you that this is a 4-part series and that we have guest speakers coming, and we'll give you some previews of what's happening there. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a very fast and furious ride through what we're doing here, but we want to give you as much information as possible so then you can feed back to us and we can partner together, right? So we're going to switch into, why do we need to do this work? And so we had the counselor here of many years, Jim McGuire, who's going to get us started with this, and then I'll finish up this part.
Yeah, not too soft or too many lava lamps and too much. But why we are here is because of our kids, right? Like, we are a loving and caring community that cares and is invested deeply in our students' success, all of us, right? And we all come to campus every single day. Our students, our faculty, our staff, you all, parents, guardians, bringing your students here, and we all have the same goal in mind, is that we want to make sure that our students are having the best experience they can. They're the healthiest they can be. They're having great academic experience, great social, great emotional experiences. And so we're all here because we want our kids to have a great experience. We also know that this is a really tough time for kids right now. It's a tough time for adults, right? I mean, we're coming off of a really tough couple of years. I don't know if anybody's seen, I just put a couple of these things up there, and we're going to send all this out later, but like the youth and behavior survey that just came out that the CDC released, what I thought was interesting about that, it was a study, a longitudinal study from 2009 to 2019, and they really looked at a lot of different factors among youth and kind of what's been happening within that population. There's some good news that came out of that report in terms of they're seeing certain things, certain risk behaviors or at-risk behaviors decline significantly, like high-risk sex behaviors, things like that have decreased, but some behaviors have actually increased, right? And risks have increased, like mental health risks, suicide risks have actually increased. This is all before the pandemic, right? This study took place from 2009 to 2019. We also know that during the pandemic, because of isolation and just disconnection and things like that, that a lot of these issues, these mental health issues, these social emotional issues really got amplified during that period of time. So we know, that the pandemic has had a really tough effect. Then you just throw in what it means to be a teenager in our world today, all the stuff that comes at them all the time from all different places, through digital interactions that they have here on campus, at school, with their friends, family, that sort of thing, the global political environment that they're living in, and all the things that they've been exposed to. Our students are just living through a lot right now. And so it's so critical right now that we're talking about this stuff and we're engaging in this work. Because it's not, we know that all the outcomes improve if we have really great comprehensive social emotional learning curriculum and a culture here that supports that here at our school. So. All right.
So I feel that if we were doing a soundtrack to this video here, it would have been the Shangri-La music, then all of a sudden the record with the scratch coming across it like, oh my gosh, we're human, right? And we have difficult things that we're working on as adults, and it's really hard to grow up. And so a statistic that I'm really interested in is traffic accidents have gone up 17% in the last year. Right? And so let's assume it's all towards COVID. And so we can see the results of COVID with traffic accidents. What is the equivalent of a traffic accident to a 5-year-old? What's the equivalent of a traffic accident to a 12-year-old, to an 18-year-old? And so we don't have those statistics yet about mental health, all of the other things that we're fighting against with the COVID. And so it's hidden. We don't have statistics yet, but it's there, right? And we can count it in some ways. We can't see it in other ways. So just know it's there. And then we can't buy our way out of this either. So this is an article that just was published last week on one of these heads things. And it's about the Choate School in Connecticut, one of the most successful boarding schools in the world. I think their endowment starts with a B instead of an M in terms of what they can do in terms of resources. So they had a group of students, over 300 students had a walkout because they believe that their administration doesn't care about their health and wellness, right? And so these kids are so despondent, so angry, have all the resources in the world. The most qualified kids, I mean, to get into Choate, you just have to be a super duper star, right? You have the world by the tail at Choate, all the resources, and you've got into Choate, and they're walking out because the administration doesn't care about their health and wellness. I know the head of school quite well. He does care about health and wellness, but we're in this place where money's not going to buy us out. As a matter of fact, at times, affluence can add to the problem. Okay, so we wanted to just get your attention. I'm getting everybody's eyes right on me here, right? We wanted to make sure we're all in this together, and we're going to talk about what we're going to do to work through this, okay? So this was, we've got everybody's attention now. I'm hoping with this clarion call that we will come together as a community. I'm confident that we will. We will come together as a community and work really hard through both post-pandemic and then creating a system that is going to be healthier for our children. And that's going to require a systemic change. And systemic change doesn't happen quickly nor easily. And so what we need to do is make sure we focus on, we need to do systemic change as parents, we need to do systemic change as a school. And so hopefully we've got your attention with that. And so how I want to break down the change is in terms of culture, curriculum, and community. So Jim McGuire is going to help us with culture in a moment, but what I want to talk about is being really intentional about what is the culture at the school. To be really intentional about thinking about what is our curriculum at school? What do we need to teach our children? What are the most important lessons we teach our children? What is the scope and sequence, junior kindergarten through 12th grade? What are the most important things they need to know? And what is science teaching us about what is teachable? Right? We used to think that like social emotional skills, you were born with social emotional skills. Either you had it or you didn't, or it was a school of hard knocks, right? That was kind of how you got your social emotional. But now we are learning ways to teach these things. And so it's incumbent upon us to really think about our curriculum. It's incumbent upon us to really think about our culture. We can control our culture. And then finally, we want to think about our community and how that affects our children, and that sense of community can be such a sense of resilience and buffer for all of this work. So,
yep. So, I mean, there's a number of different things that we've been working on. A lot of different areas of the school that we've been trying different things, different initiatives. Rob's going to talk more in detail here in a second, but just a little word cloud that just gives you a sampling of some of those things that we've been doing here. We're going to talk about some of the meditation things that we've done for faculty and staff. The counseling, our counseling staff is amazing. The stuff that we're doing with Ruler at Yale and Teachers College, we're going to get into those details. But just to give you a sampling of all the things that are in this word cloud up here are different initiatives or different things that have already been in place here that really support the social emotional health and wellness for our students. All hands on deck.
Actually, so I'm in charge of all hands on deck. So it's my job to really think about how do we deploy our resources as a school to show that this is important. And so I have 2 pages of people, different groups of people that are working really hard on this as part of their job. So at the top of the list is Jim McGuire, who we really need to have someone who they are the authorized keeper. I love that term. Columbia Teachers College came up with that term. Authorized keeper. You are the authorized keeper. Yes, it is a lot of pressure. But he keeps the work going. He kept the work going through COVID, right? Where this work is really important, but rarely urgent. Right? Very important, rarely urgent. And so often in our lives, when something is really important, rarely urgent, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll work out tomorrow. I'll start my diet tomorrow. I'll work on health and wellness tomorrow. We need to work on health and wellness today. We need to work on it tomorrow. So Jim is our authorized keeper, and so he's the assistant head of school, and we're dedicating significant resources, and his focus is on working on this, and he's fantastic at it. So we're so blessed to be able to have him here. Then the division heads at each division are beginning to focus on this work and buying into this work. And then we've got the diversity, equity, and inclusion branch that we're doing. And then we've got core competencies and counselors and deans and the Center for Learning Advancement. We're sending 6 people to Yale virtually to learn how to teach emotions in the Ruler program. We go to a full second page where we've got the Awakened Brain. We have 12 teachers doing a 10-class session on Wednesday nights at some late night, like 7 to 9 at night, which is the middle of the night as far as I'm concerned. We have more people in that than anyone else in the country. It's really fun. So exciting that so many teachers signed up for that. We have great partnerships with the Parents Association and the board, which we're just so blessed to have such a great group there. We have mindfulness courses in the upper school that Shelley, Sal, and Lynn Macrae are teaching. We've got crew room meditation. About 50 faculty have gone through this meditation course. Jim and I are teaching a Wayfinder course for purpose and meaning to sophomores. We have Nedra teaching Pebble meditation to 4th graders. We have community service being reinvigorated. There's so much going on here because we have to take a really holistic approach and try to find all the different ways that we can approach this. So now,
one of the big, what I would say is just one of the big takeaways from that is just that there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of folks who have been involved in this work for a long, long time and are now involved in it. It's also really important to mention and note, we're starting from a great place as a community and school. Collegiate has a long history of caring about small by design and community and belonging, and so it's a school that has got a history in this work, and now it's time to build on that and be intentional. It's on one hand, it's like, yes, we've done a lot up to this point, and we have to also be willing and not afraid to examine where we are and what is the important work that we still need to do, and how do we be intentional about strengthening and building the right kind of culture and community here at our school. I'm going to talk a little bit about culture because Rob had outlined there culture, curriculum, and community. And culture, as we talk about it, is really the foundation for the curriculum and the community piece, right? Like, we got to work really hard at the culture and the climate here at Louisville Collegiate. It doesn't just happen because we want to. Well, culture does sort of like emerge organically, but we can be intentional about that. We can be really deliberate about that. We spent a lot of time looking at a lot of different resources on this. One of the primary resources that really guides a lot of our thinking and a lot of the work that we are doing is stuff that comes out of the Columbia University Teachers College, in their collaborative for spirituality and education. This is secular spirituality. This is a broad approach that applies to all settings. And this is really about how do you create cultures and climates that are filled with transformative relationships where students and faculty and staff can really cultivate and develop the inner self as well as those connections to something larger than itself, right? Their community, the people that they're in, their classrooms, parents, so on and so forth. They studied at Columbia, they studied 21 different schools where they found transformative school cultures, where you just walked in, you could see it, you could feel it, it was all around you. And these schools that were really excelling in this area, they found these 11 drivers at play there. And these schools were doing these things at a really high level. And at the center of it, it is a driver, but at the center of it is these transformative relationships. And they found that these 21 schools were just filled with transformative relationships, you know? And so these are like, kind of think of these as like the ingredients to a really great school culture. Now, we can't like jump in and do like really focus on all 11 of those right away. And so Rob challenged kind of the administrative team to really think about these and like, okay, if we were going to focus our time and energy on just a few for right now, knowing that we're working on all of them, where would we put our focus? And what we landed on was inherent worth, right? So seeing, knowing, and valuing every member of the school community. Really important place to start and really think about, like, how are we doing that? Where do we need to get better? Aspirational values, holding aspirational goals inside and outside the classroom, right? This, meaning, like, we want to make sure that we're giving people something, we're encouraging our students to reach socially, emotionally, personally, academically, of course. Intentional lexicon, fostering a school language rooted in interconnectedness, transcendence, and service. So this interconnectedness, how are we all connected? Using an intentional lexicon, vocabulary, words that are common, that we all sort of like get and know what they mean in terms of community and things like that. Transcendence is a little bit of a big word and hard, to kind of wrap our brains around in terms of what that means. But that's really this idea of connectedness to something bigger than yourself, right? So for some people, that will be their classroom. So some people, that will be their family. Some people will be their their sport team that they're a part of. It could be a religious faith that's important to them. It could be anything. It could be a connection to nature. It's just that connection that I'm part of something bigger than myself, and I feel connected to that. For a lot of people, it's a lot of things, right? It's like any one of us. It's not just one thing that we feel connected to. It can be multiple things. Ritual, so how do your rites, rituals, and ceremonies, how do they display your values as a community? What do they tell people about your community? This is really critical and important. We have been spending a lot of time this year really looking at our rites, rituals, and ceremonies, having discussions at a lot of different levels, at the faculty staff level, the administrative level. Like, are they saying and doing what we want them to say and do? Are they getting the right message? Or are they expressing our values in the way that we want? Where do we need to make changes, modifications, things like that? And then Rob talked a little bit about the authorized keeper, just making sure that you've got someone that's really thinking about this and keeping focus on this work. And then finally the transformative relationships. I talked about that at the beginning, but these are critical. And so the more emphasis that we can put on creating those and developing those and nurturing those, and not just like student to faculty transformative relationships, but transformative relationships among our colleagues, our faculty, staff, and our parent community. Again, just to recap, like that's a lot about culture, and there's a lot more that we can go into in terms of that deep dive into the Columbia University work. But again, just as a reminder, I mean, all of that stuff is so critical and important, because if we can create the right kind of culture, the right kind of foundation here, it's going to be the best school and the healthiest school for our kids to grow up in and have a great experience here at Collegiate. All right.
As we switch to curriculum, we think about what is it we want to teach, how do we want to teach it? But so much of it is, what do we want to teach? And so obviously we want to be the best traditional academic institution in Kentucky, in the Midwest, whatever the region is. We have very high aspirations for our traditional academic program. And we believe we can teach a whole lot, either in the way we teach or be specific about helping people socially, emotionally, spiritually. And so we've been diving into this, and we call it our Core Competencies program. And so we talk about trying to define what skills do we want our children to be really good at. And so quantitative reasoning, reading, communications, creative and critical inquiry, we've got that. And we're going to continue to focus on it, because you don't want to rest on your laurels there. We're really good at those traditional ones. But what we need to think about is community mindedness, intercultural competency, curiosity, growth mindset, wellness. What is the scope and sequence for wellness for junior kindergarten to 12th grade? We can teach this. We can teach gratitude, right? That's a component of wellness. How are we teaching gratitude? If we're successful in teaching gratitude, we'll be more resilient. We'll be happier. We can teach this. So what's really cool about this project, and I'm only giving you a preview, on May 10th, Clay Gahan and Stephen Sowell will come and really walk you through how we're approaching this curricularly, okay? And so I'm just giving you a preview of the work. But what's really cool about this work is every single member of our faculty is contributing to this project. And so it's a work in progress. And so right here you see 8, actually there are 9 in this circle. Last week we decided to have 8, and we're merging 2 together, and we just think it's going to fit out better that way. So we're not following anybody else's roadmap. We're studying what other schools are doing in the country in this work, and then we're making it ours. And that agency of making it ours, every teacher is involved in the creation of this. Every teacher has ownership in this. Stephen and Clay are guiding the ship to make sure that we're working efficiently together, because when you work with 140 people together, it's complex, it's messy. But I think that we're really finding some things that are really, really important to help our children through these times.
Real quick, just a brief thing about that. Like, it's so critical. You can read any of the research on social emotional learning curriculum, and like the integration is always a challenge. Like, how do communities really integrate this? Having full buy-in and having your entire faculty and staff engaged in this work is really, really important. We have amazing counselors, college counselors, CLA folks that do a lot of great support, and our students are really kind of the authorized keepers of a lot of that social emotional learning work. But having the entire faculty engaged in this is just such it's amazing to have that, because it's really going to ensure that we're going to get true integration with the social emotional learning throughout the school and in the classrooms where it's happening, where kids are every single day.
And so finally, the third prong is community, right? And I think that there's nothing more important in a school than a really tight community. What are the parents saying to their children when they pick their child up is, "How great was school today?" Or, "What went wrong today?" Think about the difference of a child getting into their car. "What went wrong today?" "I'll tell you what went wrong today." Or, "How awesome was school? What did you learn?" Well, there must have been something amazing to happen there. Or, as the children get older, you know their their friends' parents, and when they're being a little naughty, we need to like gang up on them and make sure that we know what they're doing. But there's all sorts of reasons for us to gather as a community to raise our child in a connected way, right? And our community is a beautifully diverse community. The one homogeneity of our community is how important education is, and hopefully how important whole child education is to our children and to our families, right? That we're willing to make sacrifices for it, either by volunteering or by paying a very high tuition to do things differently than other schools can do that. That's what binds us together. And I'm sure that that sense of community makes a significant difference in our children's lives. And so we talk about the Parents Association. Our Parents Association is amazing. And I think as we come out of COVID, we really want to talk about how do we enrich, intensify the parent-school relationship. And I'm really looking forward to working with the Parents Association, who has been amazing through the pandemic with all their initiatives. I think that the one that was most notable was the sense of gratitude they gave to our faculty in a very difficult time when our faculty was close to down and out. The Parents Association was there. We love you. We appreciate you, and really helped us get through a very difficult time. And now it's time for us to gather and say, well, what does post-pandemic look like? How can we have rooms of 80 people together to really talk about what's important for us as a community?
Yeah, the partnership is critical. That's why we put this parent series together, just to get folks in, start talking in detail about what we're doing and about what's coming up, and just having your partnership in this work. And it's amazing to have this room full of people this morning. That's incredible. I did wake up at about 4:15 this morning, panicked. I'm like, what if 400 people show up? We might have to move this. I want to be in that spot, So it's I know that there's a lot coming at you right now, and it's hard to kind of keep, and we think about this and work on this all the time, but please, come in, ask questions, pull us aside, talk to us about this, stay engaged in this work. And I think the more engaged parents are, I think the more this takes hold and the better it's going to be for our kids. So please, the partnership is critical. A couple of things here just to kind of point out. These are some upcoming things that are happening here at the school, just to kind of make you aware. So we have the E. Ford Foundation that we have applied for a grant. We're going to have John Gula, who heads that up, going to be coming to campus here in 2 weeks.
3 weeks,
yeah. 3 weeks. And basically, we put a grant forward for health and wellness. And we want to try to get some funding around this to help us kind of accelerate some things. We're hoping to do a summer institute for our faculty and staff, where they would be compensated to come in during the summer for a couple days and really get a deep dive into all this work, so that they can then feel equipped and trained up to take this work into their classrooms. We also want to look at potentially building out a contemplation center here on campus that can be accessible to all individuals on our campus, faculty, staff, students, parents, guardians, whoever might want to use that, and just some additional funding that will really help us make sure that we get a lot of the cultural and social emotional work that we're doing integrated into our school. I've mentioned the Collaborative for Spirituality and Education. So our next parent program, which we will talk about here in more detail in a second, is coming up, where we will have Dr. Amy Chapman come along with Chris Tate, and they will be here to talk in detail about what this work means. That little wheel that I showed you, they're going to go and do a deep dive. So please come back for that. And then Rob and I will also be presenting some of the work that we've done up to this point at the ERA conference, the AERA. My understanding, I've never been to it, but my understanding is it's like the Super Bowl of academic research conferences. We're really excited to play a role in that. We got invited to do so by the folks at Columbia. So we're going to just talk about the work that we've been doing, conversations that we've been having here, hopefully going to learn, but also contribute to the field, because we want to make sure that we're not just, sort of thinking about this work here, but how do we help contribute to the field of education?
So we're aspirational here. We're realistic in that we're in with the kids every day, and there are hard days with kids. And when you, as I said, when you put 750 together, things happen. But we want to be aspirational with what we're doing here. And so I don't think it's wrong to say we want to be the healthiest school in the world to grow up. I think sometimes when you're like you put the grass is greener on the other side. Well, Choate must be better because they have the smartest kids and the most amount of resources. Well, the kids walked out on them 2 weeks ago. I mean, people are struggling. I think we have all the ingredients to make this the healthiest place in the world to grow up. And so what we're going to do is we'll take about 5 minutes of questions. We don't want to shorten your questions, but we want to have enough time then to get feedback from all of you.
Yeah, we have an activity plan for everybody in the room that we'd like to get to, so if there's a couple of questions, we could do those.
And if Gary, go ahead.
I apologize because I missed the first part, so if you went over this, I'm curious. First of all, I applaud you all for putting this together. I'm curious as to how you're getting input from the kids in this as far as their voice as you guys put this all together.
So that's our final partner is the children, and we're doing a lot to prepare to pull them in more. We have division heads, we have counselors, we have everybody working on this who are receiving the information and then helping us build what we're doing. But we want to give children the agency as well and have them a part of this as they're part of the honor code ceremony today, and they're the guardians of the honor code ceremony. So they are in the next phase as we're rolling out now. So, but a great question. Thank you.
There's a lot of programming that's going to get implemented that will then, work its way into the classrooms. But already, I mean, again, like we are not starting from scratch here. We have a great school with great faculty and staff that have already been doing a lot of stuff in the classroom with students. And if you walk around, I mean, like Jane Beck, I know, has been doing meditation every morning with their kids, and you see like things happening all around campus already, and getting feedback from kids like, is this helpful? In the purpose class that Rob and I teach, we always are checking in like, all right, is this good, corny? What do you all think? Help us out here. How do we make it better? And so it's happening sort of organically like that as well. It's a great question. Yeah.
I have a question. I noticed in the all hands on deck, the kind of health and wellness thing, that it didn't have a representative from athletics, and I was wondering how you were engaging the athletic department with culture and other things.
So one of the things that wasn't up there is a broad wellness committee that's made up of individuals all across campus. We have about 24 folks who sit on that, and we started that this year, and we meet periodically. What we did with that committee was made sure we had representation from all areas of the school. So we have Paul Augustus sits on that committee, our director of athletics. We also make sure that we've got folks from facilities and advancement and parents and board and everybody represented on that.
And so the athletic question is really vital. This needs to get into all aspects of everything we're doing, and athletics is such a great opportunity to teach wellness, and we've seen athletics go in the wrong direction at times, and so it is a wonderful opportunity that we're availing ourselves as this thing continues to permeate through the community. First of all, thank you all for coming. Hopefully you found it worthwhile and that you see that we have a common issue that we all need to work on. So as we began this is a 4-part series, and as a matter of fact, it's more than a 4-part series, as we're going to be working on this together for quite some time, but a 4-part series, so we have 3 left. And so here are the dates of the 3 that remain, and I think that they all should be very interesting. And so what I would charge you with is, please commit for yourself to come back and to bring 2 or 3 friends with you. This is important work. The more parents we get involved with this, the stronger we will be as a community to work through this. So please commit to these dates if you can make these dates, and then please commit to bringing several friends with you to this, as this is all important work.